I'm Tyler, aka Mallacht, and today, by popular demand, we are going to be doing our garden tour number two. All right, so sit back, relax, cheers, have a drink with me. Let's get to it. All right, guys, before we get started, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. We are at Mallacht's Plants on all social media out there, and please do go join the Mallacht's Plants and Your Plants group on Facebook. We just gave away 2 landfill cuttings. I try to do as much giveaways in there as possible, guys. That is the Mallacht's fam. All right, guys, so let's get started with the tour. So first off, we have our grafted CSDs here, the infamous 7-foot tall CSD graft up here that people seem to really love. It's grafted to your typical PC or predominant cultivar pachinoi. We talk about that a lot in our Trichocereus pachinoi PC video. Next here we have our BBB Bridgesii, kind of intermingled with some Show Peruvianus here. Look at how beautiful this Show Peruvianus is right here. Look at those white areoles. I know most of you probably know the story about this one, but I bought this at the Orange County Cactus and Succulent Show. And the reason why I called it Show Peruvianus is because, there's always some debate of like, what is a Peruvianus, right? Like, we'll get to the short spine Peruvianus, the real tall one behind me there, right? A lot of people think that that is actually a pachinoi. I kind of, as I'm sure many of you have seen me comment before, I really don't care either way, to be honest. But I do actually think it is actually a Peruvianus, even if it is short spine and it looks a lot more like a San Pedro, which I will agree with. So the Show Peruvianus mother kind of continues over here. It's kind of growing on both sides of the BBB Bridgesii here. To tell a quick story on the BBB that I don't think I've told on camera, a lot of people don't realize why I call the BBB cut on the website, okay? It's actually because, so when I first ordered BBB from Bouncing Bear Botanicals, right, which is what the BBB stands for, when I first ordered from them back in the day, I ordered like 4 cuttings, and I liked them so much that I ordered they had some special for like 12 feet for like 120 or 140 bucks or something like that, some crazy deal, like $10 a foot, $12 a foot, something like that. And so I bought this big box of them. And when I planted them all, I quickly realized that there are phenotypical differences. That they actually grew them from seed. That there wasn't just one. It's not a clone. Okay, so the BBB cut is like a cut, right? It's multiple different plants. It's not just one clone like most cultivars are. Like Landfill, Show Peruvianus, they are a cloned cultivar. Whereas BBB, there's I don't really even know how many. Like I said, there was about 16 of them total that I ordered from them. And I'd say there's at least 6 to 8 different ones. All right, so next worth talking about here is our SSP, or short spine Peruvianus, aka the cutting that is known by the infamous cactus seller Vern, R.I.P. Vern, as he is no longer with us. This is the SSP. It's used in a lot of our crosses, as I've let this column kind of grow taller than I allow most of my cuttings to grow, as I am mostly a cuttings vendor, right? So a lot of stuff tends to get kind of mowed like the grass, so to speak. It's a real beaut. And like I said a minute ago, I do believe it to be a Peruvianus. Okay, there's one distinct feature that is one of the main reasons why I believe it actually is a Peruvianus, even though it is kind of short spine and it does have a lot of pachinoi-like traits. And I'd like to point this out right here. You see how it's kind of leaning? Christopher Mills and I like to call that their gangster lean. Okay, Peruvianus tend to do that. You can see the KK242 right next to it, which is an obvious Peruvianus, right? It's also like doing that lean. You see how all these Peruvianuses are doing that lean, whereas the Bridgesii, right, tends to grow more like vertical. Pachinoi tend to do that as well. They tend to grow more vertical. All right, so here we have some of our carnivorous plants. These are some Sarracenia, some bred Sarracenia. It's Farnhami, or Farnhami crossed with Welli, Sunbell number 3, crossed with Leah Wilkerson. So some real name You know, genetics, some of you are probably familiar with those people. I'm kind of just getting into carnivorous plants, so I'm not really familiar with a lot of those people. I'm sure they're very famous, so shout out to them. But these are Sarracenia. They are a, I really like growing these in particular because they're a California native. I believe they're actually native to somewhere in like Northern California. This is also a Sarracenia. So these ones, these little tiny ones, so these particular ones I actually grew from seed. So I'm particularly proud of these little guys. And as you can see in the close-up, they look like a little mini version of this right here, this nice big guy. Kind of looks like a cobra or something, right? I really dig them, right? They get really like veiny and stuff too. They're really cool looking. Look at these like spots on the back. Such a cool plant. Next, as far as really cool, really rare plants go, we have our Dioscorea elephantipes, or the elephant foot plant. You see, these are really cool. I really love how this is called a caudex, sort of like a camel's hump. It stores you know, nutrients and water in here. They are an African plant, so you know, African plants are very adapted to scarcity, right? As you know, Africa is a pretty harsh environment in a lot of places. Okay, as these sort of grow, they stretch, creating these little, you know, almost like turtle-like notches, or you know, they say it looks like the foot of an elephant, which is why it's called the elephant foot plant. Oh wow, look at that one. Damn, look at the patterning on that one. That's so fucking cool. Look at that. Man, look at that symmetry. It's fucking nuts, dude. I don't know how it does that. This here is a very well-known, you know, sort of, you know, relatively famous cultivar of pitcher plant, or Nepenthes, which is a carnivorous plant as well, called Gaia, which, you know, Gaia is the earth, right? Anyway, anyway, guys, this is a good time to point out a little trick that I learned from some of the carnivorous plant communities on Facebook. You can actually take these Osmoco pellets. It's like a, you know, time-release, mineral-based pelleted fertilizer, okay? And you can actually take these, and so, you know, these things obviously are supposed to eat like flies and stuff, right? Gnats, California carnivores even had one that ate a rat. He straight like dissected it and there was like rat bones inside. Nutty, okay? So they're attracted to the nectar. It's like nectar and like stomach acids basically that's kind of in here. You know, you can hear it when you shake it around. It's like there's like water inside, right? So you take the little pellets, I take about 2 or 3 of them, and you just drop them right in there. And you know what? Since I've been doing that, I've never seen my pitchers get bigger. I mean, we're gonna show some real massive ones that I've already fertilized in a minute. But I mean, they just get so big. Because I didn't realize at first that, you know, when they come out kind of small, that they'll still get like much bigger. Like they, you know, the size that they kind of like, you know, start at really is kind of almost like, you know, irrelevant, because they just, you know, especially when you fertilize them, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know if I even pointed these out in the last video, but I'm a big fan of air plants. They're really cool. Here in SoCal, it's kind of dry a lot of the time, but we've had a really wet year, so they're just doing really great this time, you know, this year. I mean, this one is just covered in fuzz and it's just super vibrant. As you can see, the one behind it flowered like crazy. And these are just, you know, they're air plants. They're relatively rootless. They kind of grow little like root like nodes, but that's about it. They're just sitting here just thriving, no roots at all, just, you know, absorbing moisture from the air. Pretty cool stuff. All right, guys, so over here we have what I like to call tropical corner. This is where I grow a lot of like, you know, tropical type plants. We have some coffee arabica here, or your, you know, your typical coffee plant, which actually, how cool is this? I just noticed this a few minutes ago. We have some ripe coffee beans. My wife and I are really hoping, and we should have just enough this year to make like, you know, a French press or two. You know, just like a quart of coffee, right? You know, but how cool is that, right? Like, you know, I don't expect it, you know, we don't exactly live in a tropical climate, so I don't expect it to, you know, give us enough to have, you know, Costco-sized bags of coffee or anything, but it'd be really cool to have a little, right? So here we have my original in-ground Rifat Kratom. It's kind of just coming out of dormancy. These, you know, these kind of need like really good weather to really, you know, to really thrive. So it's, you know, it's not looking as hot as it could right now. And then these 5 here, are other cultivars of Kratom or Mitragyna speciosa. We have lots of air plants in here too. And one of my favorite air plants, which I mentioned in the last video, that, you know, if anybody wants to take me up on some free Spanish moss, which is, you know, not a moss, but actually a type of air plant. As I was just pointing out to my wife, you see, if you kind of pay attention to how this grows, right? All from like a central point. You see how that's growing from like a central point and kind of, right? You know, every other kind of branch. It grows very similarly to how these other ones do, right? They all kind of grow from the, you know, from the center, from the apex. And, you know, if any of you are going, you know, that looks really similar to a pineapple plant, you're onto something, because pineapple actually is an air plant. Believe it or not, it's a form of air plant. It's in the same family. So what this is that we kind of, you know, that we zoomed in on there is known as blushing. Okay, so it almost looks like the sun, like the plant has like a sunburn, right? But typically, if a plant's gonna sunburn, right, it does it on like the newest growth, right? As you can see, this one kind of did it on the older growth, right? And then these ones kind of did it on the newer growth, right? But this is more with Tillandsia or you know, or air plants. It's more of a seasonal thing than it is like a sunburn thing. As you can see, I mean, we're in the shade here. There's a shade cloth above us, in fact. This area, you know, doesn't get a lot of like, you know, really harsh sun, right? So for those to get suddenly burnt out of nowhere wouldn't really make much sense, considering they're zip tied to these trees. Right here we have some Peruvian lilies. Really cool cultivar of Alstroemeria, I believe. And then right here we have single tier, the yellow submarine mother. Yellow submarine, aka Mallorca. There was a piece, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a piece like literally, you know, over like 6, 8, maybe even 10 inches over the wall that crashed down on me really bad. I was actually supporting it with I had a trash can jammed in between it and the wall here, keeping it up against the wall. And yeah, you know, I mean, like I talk about, right, guys? Like, I usually don't even agree with like staking or like trying to like baby plants like that, right? Because you're only, as I've said before, you're only delaying the inevitable. It's going to fall, okay? It's going to. They're genetically designed to do it. It's one of the ways in which they propagate themselves, right? They fall over and then a new cactus just, you know, roots from its sides, log planting as we call it, right? And it just keeps growing. So this is an orchid that I got from my good buddy Christopher Mills. Thanks, buddy. Shout out, Christopher Mills. This is a variegated form of that same Peruvian lily, the cultivar of Alstroemeria. I like to put the variegated one kind of like right in between the regular one, so you kind of see the stark contrast. In these pots, we kind of just have a lot more BBB Bridgesii. I'm going to be phasing a lot of these out coming up soon here. So this is the Kanna, or Sceletium tortuosum, that we sell on the website. As you can see, it's flowering right now, so I really wanted to show it. These flowers are super cool. Look at that. Such a cool flower. Doesn't really like connect in any way. It's all just like almost like hairs. It's really, really cool. All right, and here we have the infamous grandfather. It almost feels like it might fall over. Hopefully not.
Don't encourage it.
Then we have 2 in-ground Oguns here. These are my original 2 Oguns that were never grafted, at least not by me. I got it directly from Sacred Succulents, and I'm not sure if Ben Cam of Sacred Succulents grafted or not, but they've never been grafted by me. Here we have TPQC, or the quasi cristata. Made famous by the grower Nitrogen out of Long Beach, or at least it used to be out of Long Beach. We have right here Vallely, ouch, by Richard Hipp. This one was named by Richard Hipp himself. Vallely, I believe, is some sort of reference to like Powell, the old skateboarding company. I'm not sure what exactly though. And right here we have the Trichocereus Bridgesii Medicine Man. We got some Ogun right here. Looks like it's getting eaten up by snails a little bit. This right here is Taz. It's Taz, one of our fastest growers. This is also Taz right here. Then we have Mallacht cut right here. And then also Mallacht cut. Then we have Lumberjack right here. This right here is Trichocereus pachinoi Landfill, one of our better known cultivars. All right, right here we have the main two mother plants. This is only 2 rooted cacti, believe it or not, of the Bridgesii cultivar. We believe it's hybridized with something, but this is Lumberjack. This is Trichocereus, well, depending on who you ask. Some people think it's a scopulicola, or I think Patrick Noah believes it to be some form of like Cordobensis. But this is Super Pedro, regardless. It is the cultivar Super Pedro. And very, very tall. This is one of our several apricot trees. We already passed another one earlier. This is the cultivar, the fastest growing of the 4 Icharo phenotypes that I have. This is Icharo Pheno 1, and this is Icharo Pheno 2, the one that I call nubs, because those little notchy little nubs. And yes, I named it after the NoFX song Nubs. This is T. Bridgesii Psycho, or Psychonaut as they call it, an Australian cultivar. More Landfill. This is my brand new Tough Shed. Those of you that watched the first garden tour video remember the rusty old piece of shit shed that was here before. It was so rusted, I literally kicked my foot through like a big old section of rust, like right before we took it down. That thing was falling apart. So it's very nice to have a nice Tough Shed. This thing's pretty awesome. It's even got a sunroof and everything, so it's lit up when you're in there. It's great. This is my Mimosa hostilis that has actually been in ground for, God, like 15 years probably. As you can see, very, very, very developed root system down there. Almost looks like a bonsai or something the way that it's planted. Funny story about this thing actually. I originally put this here in like a, I don't know, like a 20-gallon pot or so. And it rooted so hard into the ground that, try as though I might, and I've ripped out some gigantic trees before, but try as I might, I could not get that thing, I couldn't get it loose. It had developed these really, really thick, like woody roots, just straight down in the soil. And so I just said, okay, well, I guess that's where you're staying. And I kind of just cut the pot and let it just kind of stay there. And over the years, it's kind of settled down more, because the crown, this part right here, was originally like way up here, and it just kind of settled itself down. I think the roots kind of spread a little bit like that, and it just kind of settled itself in. So pretty cool. Nature just finds a way, huh? This is a bow tree, aka the Bodhi tree. It is a tree that's very, very close to my heart because, well, one, because it's very cool. I mean, look at that very unique leaf shape with a little leaf tip tail that it has. Very, very unique. But also, and more importantly, because it is the tree that Buddha attained enlightenment under. He sat under a tree and he vowed not to leave until he attained enlightenment. This is our blueberry patch. So I actually dug this out and I made what they call like a bog, right? Which really just is like a fancy term for saying that it's mostly like peat moss, okay? It's a very, very peat moss heavy soil. I think it was like 50% peat moss mixed with like Fox Farm ocean forest. And yeah, and occasionally I add like a berry mix, right? Which usually has some like sulfur in it and stuff, drops the pH. These like a pH of around like 4. It's very, very, very low as far as plants go. And I have to put this net over it because if you're gonna grow blueberries, guys, and you have mockingbirds in your area, they love blueberries, the little sons of bitches. And they'll eat all of them. Literally all of them. I have one that'll he just stays up on the wires over there, and he just swoops down and steals like 3 blueberries at a time and just sits up there and eats them. It's almost like he's laughing at me. All right, so years and years ago, I had pretty much given up on growing like raspberries, blackberries, kind of anything in that family. And a big reason of why was because of the damn thorns. Okay, guys, I'm sure you guys have dealt with them. Also, they tend to bramble, and this one, knock on wood, hasn't done that at all. Okay, it hasn't popped up anywhere, in fact. It just grows in this nice little bush. This one, I can't recommend this one enough. It's a cultivar called Apache, and it's a delicious blackberry. I can just never get enough of these. This year, it really loved the rain. I think very much with like the blueberries, they like an acidic soil, so the rain sort of knocks the pH down. This is one of my many kumquats. They're delicious. This is the Maiwa variety as opposed to the Nagami. The Nagami variety is used mostly for like marmalades, you know, and stuff like that, where they're adding a lot of sugar. The Maiwa variety, which this is, tends to be a lot sweeter, and it can be eaten, you know, fresh. Or it's a lot more pleasurable to eat fresh. For those of you that really, really like sour candy, I guess Nagami's, you know, great too. This is my side yard area where I kind of just, I grow various food crops whenever I want to. We got a big Meyer lemon, which is a cultivar of lemon that's just delicious, honestly. This is designed to kind of be like a ladybug slash like butterfly sanctuary. You know, I've planted a lot of plants here, like these calatheas, which are actually edible, taste like radish. And, you know, other ladybug attracting plants, you know, in order to create like a haven for them, because they eat all the bad insects, right? As we know, guys, you know, they're one of the garden's most welcome insects, or at least they should be. So you guys see ladybugs, don't mess with them. Guys, this is an area that I have not shown yet. This is new. This is what I'm calling the, my wife thinks that this is stupid and kind of like rolls her eyes at me, but I call it the patch, right? So the P-A-C-H, patch. So this is mostly pachinoi. We've got T patch Echo the Ecuadorian right here. One that I named, which is you know, clearly an Ecuadorian pachinoi by the, well, for one, I know where it was collected, friend of a friend type scenario, but it's clearly an Ecuadorian pachinoi, which is indicative by these like notches. Not all notchy ones are Ecuadorian, but that, you know, that one definitely is. This is Ayacucho. Ayacucho from the town Ayacucho in Peru. Very famous pachinoi. And then right here, we have the Ayacucho that's actually from Star. A lot of you are familiar with her. I know her personally. Very, very nice Peruvian lady. Shout out to Star Mackey. And yeah, shout out to Javier too. But yeah, very beautiful, very short spined. You know, as you can see, I can pretty much touch this. It's very, very short spined. Really cool pachinoi. And this was collected. You know, this one is really dear to my heart because, you know, one, because Star is such a cool lady, and two, because this actually, you know, she's Peruvian. This actually came from her hometown. This one is one we have to point out. Everybody's been like literally hitting me up to buy this. The first available cut of this is promised to Christopher Mills. I know I've done like probably 3 shout outs to him throughout this video, but hey, Christopher Mills. I mean, look at how beautiful this cactus is, right? I mean, you know, this is one of these ones that, you know, like my wife said earlier, that grandfather is such a beautiful cactus, right? Like, you know, and she's not even really a cactus person, right? You know, there's certain cacti that like transcend, like whether you're even a cacti lover or not, right? And I think this is one of them. I mean, look at this thing. It's just gorgeous. Look at those notches. So this is one that I really, really like as far as, you know, pachinoi variegates go. This is, God, right up there with yellow sub as far as some of my favorites. This is T. pachinoi Green Leopard. I named this one. I acquired it when it was a very small seedling on a trade. I honestly can't even remember with who, but he told me that I was definitely the only one that has it. But this one is just, you know, I mean, wow, just amazing, you know. Here we have Trichocereus terschekii. This is one of the only terschekis on my property. This is the famous cultivar known as SASS, or South Australian short spined, right? I don't know, whatever the SASS stands for, this is it right here. All right, so this is the Dawson's Peruvianus from the famous Dawson's Australian cactus garden. Very, very beautiful cultivar, very glaucous, or you know, gray blue. This here is T. pachinoi Ujna, AJNA. This was named by a friend of mine. It's a large stand growing in Riverside, California. That's about all I know. I know many of you ask me for, you know, details on these cacti sometimes, and I feel like a lot of times people kind of give me these responses that kind of infer that they think I'm being like withholding or whatever. But oftentimes, that's all I know. You know, like I just know that this is from this large stand in Riverside. I don't even know where. I have no idea. But it's a beautiful patrinoid, that's all I know. Hey, this is one of everyone's favorites, T. Peruvianus Shark's Blue from Australia as well. Very, very beautiful cactus. And this is probably one of the newer planted landfill on the property, but probably also one of the fattest. I mean, look at this thing. That is just beefy. Okay, look at that. I mean, this thing probably, God, this whole column alone probably weighs like 40 pounds or something. I mean, real heavy. So here we have Grandfather again. This is also one of the more newly planted cuttings of Grandfather. This is T. pachinoi, the one that I named Buoy Glass, which in Gaelic, or the Irish, or the the ancient Irish Scottish language of the Celtics, actually means yellow green, which is cool. So I basically just named it after what it looks like. And so you guys know how I feel about stakes typically. Variegated plants though, you know, it's hard to get by growing variegated plants without staking them. And I know that's why many of you out there tend to avoid growing variegated plants, because, you know, they are a little bit weaker, right? Because all of these areas that are yellow are completely unable to photosynthesize, okay? It's completely lacking chlorophyll. Okay, so it's sort of an inability to stack grana, which is what sort of makes up chlorophyll. And you know, all of these areas that are yellow cannot photosynthesize. Only green areas can photosynthesize. This is T. pachinoi MT01. The MT comes from the Manual Terra collection. But anyway, he's done several expeditions over there to South America, and he's collected some really cool cultivars, including this one. This one right here is MT02. It is also for the Manual Terra collection. This is a very special one, in my opinion. This is LFM, as it's sometimes known as on the social medias and whatnot. It stands for Lima Flower Market. So this is from Lima, Peru, in the famous the witches markets, as they call them, where they where they often sell these cuttings. This is LMP, or Legendary Matucana pachinoi. It is from the Matucana region of Peru. All right, so this pachinoi is pretty cool. Supposedly it was grown in Egypt. It was named Zeus, which I actually have a dog named Zeus, which I had before I acquired the cutting. Yeah, so it's pretty cool if it was actually grown in Egypt. That's pretty interesting. And then this, I'm really stoked about this one, you guys. This is T. Peruvianus Shaman's Garden. And as you can see here, it is actually flowering. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I can count offhand here times. And this one, I don't think anybody, somebody correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I don't know if any breeding has been done with this one. So, I'd love to be the first to breed with it. That's pretty cool. This is a very popular cactus cultivar right now. This is Bruce's Dragon, a form of mutated cactus that looks a lot like the penis plants, but like a melted wax form of it. I'm going to put this in ground ASAP. It's actually gonna go in this plot right here. This is BBG 48.1540. Really cool. Very, very glaucous, very blue cultivar. Right, and this is sort of an arrangement of cacti and succulents that I made that's, to be honest, way too close planted together. I believe this was actually in like a pot, I think I just like planted the whole pot like in ground a long time ago. But as you can see, this stuff is all very, very mature. We've got a crested Cylindropuntia here. We've got the blue myrtle cactus right here. And way up there, we've got the bald Bridgesii. As you can see, the top easily, like a couple feet or so. It looks like there's like one spine in the front, but like, with the exception of that, couple of feet there of just like completely spineless growth. Very, very interesting cultivar. This is some of my grafted CSD, or the chemical shaman's dick, as it's known as. I want to point out this one in particular because this one, as you can see, is putting on a lot of traits that are really indicative of it being on its own roots rather than being grafted. As a lot of you know, when CSD is grafted, it typically puts on a, like a look like this, right? Where it looks like kind of like a really fat Bridgesii, right? But with definite spines, right? Whereas the own roots form tends to grow almost spineless and very like mutated like this. All right, guys. That was our garden tour video number 2. Showed a lot of new stuff today. Hope you guys appreciated it. Thanks for watching. Mallacht out.